right, everybody. So clearly, special edition, our Halloween episode. Obviously, right now as we're recording, it's the 27th of October. But with that being said, we have one of my favorite, and correct me if I say spooky wrestlers of all time. But yeah, we have Trever Aeon in the house today, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going, Trever?
Pretty good so far.
Good. It's good to talk to you. I think the last time I saw you live and in person was at Lemonade Park for Journey Pro. And I believe you were supposed to be back this coming Friday, but Journey Pro had some technical difficulties, so they have to postpone. Did you won a ticket, right, to the Ticket to Ride match? Okay, that's what I thought. So that's why you'll be coming back. Awesome. So I want to do things a little bit differently than I've watched a handful of interviews with you as well, just so I didn't retread any territory. I'm not really a big fan of doing that as much as possible, but I'm aware from those interviews that your first technical bump was at Home Depot and not in the ring. Things like that. Ugh. So also that you dabbled in some boxing, you messed around in the music business a little bit here and there. So there's obviously a peppered background for you, but as far as growing up in Georgia and Atlanta, is there and has there been a thriving wrestling scene out there? I mean, because I know there are certain states and cities that do, but I don't hear a whole lot about Atlanta.
It's kind of on and off here. Like when I started wrestling in like 2011, and when I first started to like go to shows with like the folks from my school in 2010, the end of 2010, middle of 2010 or so, like there was a lot of shows here, and now there's like 5.
Yeah.
but like the quality of those shows has also changed too, because like the 5 shows here now are really good shows, because we got Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment here, we got Southern Honor Wrestling here, Platinum Championship Wrestling's up and running again, Anarchy Wrestling is still kicking. It used to be Wildside, right? It's still kicking. Like my whole reason for wanting to work there is because I used to watch Wildside when I was a teenager.
Got you.
And I saw like AJ Styles and R-Truth and all these guys on there, and I'm like, man, I want to work there. And then I got into wrestling, and I'm like, this place is right there. I had no idea.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I feel like the quality of the indies in general over the last 10, 15 years clearly is actually, you know what? I think the ghost has appeared.
Oh.
The ghost has appeared. Let's see.
Holy cow.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
All
right. What's
that
up,
was
Pat?
a nightmare. Not much. I apologize. Trever, nice to meet you. Sorry I'm late.
So to catch you up to speed, Patrick, what I said was earlier before we started recording is that if you weren't able to jump on the call, I was just going to say you were dressed as a ghost for Halloween. So thank you for taking your mask off finally. So what we're discussing right now is just the state of the indies now, especially in Georgia where he comes from. And yeah, like I said, I talked to Gary J a few times a little while ago, and we were discussing how when I was training originally, which didn't last very long, it was 2003, 2004, it was not the same indies as it is today at all. It was filled with the overaged, overweight guys who were friends with the promoter and the guy with the money, so they were champion for years and years and years, and the new guys didn't get to do anything specific.
Now don't get me wrong, that does still happen.
Oh, it does. No, clearly, and we have a couple of promotions here that do it still as well. So, but you're saying though, within the last few years, it's finally started to kind of come up, or do you find yourself having to reach out to other promotions out of Georgia more often?
Like we have less shows, but those shows are like way higher quality now.
Gotcha.
Definitely good. I remember when I started, we didn't really have shows that like were taste making shows that like get you a buzz, but now like Action Wrestling is here, and I've seen people just build a whole buzz off of just being there a lot. So and then they end up in a lot of other places. I've never wrestled much in Georgia. Like I was always kind of a traveling guy. I wrestled at Anarchy regularly for a little while. I wrestled at Peach State, Peach State's on hiatus right now, even though I'm one of their champions. So I have to mention them because I hold one of their titles. And
days with the title is days with the title, regardless.
Yeah, because it ain't like I haven't been defending it, because I have still been defending it. And like Peach State, Platinum Championship Wrestling, and Anarchy Wrestling, I was at all of them regularly for a little while. And then when my runs with them was over, like I started just going everywhere. Like I would jump in the car by myself. I would jump in the car if somebody had a spot. And since I ain't really, like, I didn't have any friends or anything in the business when I got started, with the exception of like one guy.
Right.
And I'm first generation, so I ain't really know nobody. I ain't know nothing. I was just like, I see the show's going on. I kind of want to be on it. I'm going to just drive up there and see what they say. Because my trainer said that's what he used to do. But back then you couldn't email nobody or send them a message and be like, hey, I'm coming to your show.
Yeah, there was no DMs back then.
Yeah, you had to bring a disc or a VHS with your match on it and a piece of like a picture so they could see. So I was like, I'm gonna just take advantage of it. I done been to some shows like a bajillion times and they never used me. And then some shows I went the first time and they're like, hey, thanks for coming. What are you doing next month? So you just never know.
I forget exactly who it was. One of the podcasts I was listening to, they said that they literally went to whatever the promotion was. They sat down in whatever the lobby was, or no, it was a training facility. It wasn't actually for the shows, and they sat there and waited and waited and waited and waited at every show, every single opportunity, until finally it was like a year and a half or so later, they noticed like, okay, this big dude's been sitting here for like a year now. We need somebody. Let's give him a shot. And then sure enough, I wish I could remember who it was, but they ended up being huge. If you were, say you had to back out of wrestling for whatever reason, then you still stayed involved and kind of stayed as like a scout of some kind. Who's like your top 3 to 5 names that you would want to rope up for what you would think would be the best of the best right now, outside of yourself, clearly?
I would immediately, like, if somebody just threw that kind of power at me, I would immediately sign Joe Black, William Huckabee, and probably there's a whole lot of people this could be. The last spot's always the hardest. I want to say Trish Adora. Yeah. And I would like start my build around the 3 of them. Okay. Or I would start like shoving them down people's throats. Like, hey, look at these 3 people. They're great.
That's kind of the point of the question too. Yeah, I want, because like I said, I respect your work, especially what little I've seen. And so this will kind of transition. So I knew about your work prior to your AEW Dark experience in June. It wasn't extensive, but I did know what who your name was before you were on Dark. And obviously you tagged up against Team Taz on the June 7th edition of Dark. What was your experience at AEW like?
I had a great time. It probably helped me that a lot of people that work there now are people that I was on shows with when I lived in New York, or people that I've run into before. Like I knew Max Caster before AEW because I went to Creative Pro for a few times while I was on Long Island. I used to be pretty close with Priscilla when she was married to Darby, so they came and hung out with us in New York. And so I recognized a lot of people because we had already met. So I was like, oh yeah, it's good to see everybody I know already. So it was really, really cool because it was like being in any other locker room, except there was way more money floating around.
Yeah, it was kind of more comfortable walking into that, but it was such a huge environment.
It's like hanging out with a bunch of people you know, but doing like the best job in the world. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and even though the match wasn't a very extensive match or anything like that, it was, the role was there, but it's still like just the idea of being in the ring with 2 guys from their company that are clearly supposed to be, a big deal here soon. So that's how I took it too. Right. And like, you'd be surprised at the amount of you'd be surprised at what you get out of just even that little bit of exposure, 3 minutes. Right. And all I did was I'm gonna just make sure everybody knows I can move and I can go. And that's what. Hey, at least you didn't take like 15 scoop slams. So.
Oh my God.
I thought after the 3rd one, I was like, okay, and then 4th one, and then a 5th one, and then a 6th one. I'm like, God damn.
shout out to Kendall Blake for being a gangster. That's a lot. I remember the early days of training where you just would bump for hours.
Right.
I remember like in Japan where we was just training our asses off for hours, like that, and watching him take all those body slams. That's what it was like.
Yep.
Was like, damn.
Yeah, that's I'm notorious for bringing up the story of when the first slam I ever officially took in a ring in my quote unquote training was from Dan the Beast Severin.
Wow.
I was about 120 pounds.
Yeah.
And he acted like I was Andre. So my back still isn't right. But yeah, so I can't even imagine. Every time he took one more and one more and one more, and every time I wanted to curl up because that's Hobbs, man. You know, he's not just letting you down lightly.
Big strong boy.
For real.
Big strong boy.
So 10 years almost, right? You've been in
November, I think November 11th. It's 10 years.
So it's coming up.
Yeah.
That's insane, man. Obviously you've been all over the place. And I've heard you talk a little bit about your, you were 5 or 6 or so when you finally got into wrestling with your grandma and that kind of stuff. When you really found your own spot as a fan in wrestling, where was it? Was it ECW? Was it WCW? Was it WWF?
It was WCW and then some of ECW, because a lot of people that are like all-time favorites of mine, like Raven, were super prominent there.
I was going to bring
that up.
Tanaka
was always on there, so I was always watching for them.
Right.
And then when WCW kind of died, we all kind of gravitated towards just watching WWE for a little while, especially because the Ruthless Aggression was coming up. And I make no bones about praising the Ruthless Aggression era. Like, and then I discovered indie wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in there, I found out about like Ring of Honor and stuff like that. And that's when I was just kind of like, man, I didn't know there was wrestling outside of these big companies. I thought you went there and applied for a job and then you get hired and then they make you a wrestler. I didn't know. Yeah, I had no idea that there was all these other little wrestling companies. And then I just started losing my mind because I was like absorbing all of that. And in between all of this, I was always watching Japanese wrestling.
Okay.
Always. Like, if I used to rent tapes from Blockbuster.
Yep.
It's that serious.
I did the same thing with WWF back in the 80s, watching old King of the Rings that weren't even televised and stuff. I know 4 competitors in there, but I'm still like, whoa! Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. I remember.
I used to rent those and the old UFCs. I used to rent those.
I remember doing that too. Yep. The old UFCs for sure.
My mom would look at me like, what are you doing? It's all this violence. And I'm just like, I like violence. Leave me alone.
It keeps me calm, Mom.
Right? It helps me relax.
So let's say for whatever reason, and it would be extremely unfortunate, for whatever reason, wrestling kind of fell apart for you, would you ever lean back into something like boxing or the music side of things?
I would probably end up, especially because at my age, like I'd be a senior fighter if I tried to fight now. So it's probably way too late, especially because wrestling's been beating the crap out of me for 10 years. But I would probably just lean into music because I never really stopped working on it.
That's what my next question was going to be. Yeah.
So I would probably just focus on that. I've kind of have this growing thought in my head to have my own goth night. So that's going to happen whether I end up having to retire tomorrow. Like, that's coming at some point. It might not be this year or next year or anything like that, but that's definitely something I'm working on.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it would be all that stuff. Like I would probably just actively start putting out music and trying to tour again. I have a t-shirt line that I'm working on that I'd probably just focus all my energy on that. I've been working on like a graphic novel for the last 10 years that I just cannot stay focused on. So I'll probably sit down and finish it.
Maybe do something. Regardless, you have a lot of things to fall back on, is what you're saying. Yeah, which is rare quality.
I have a lot of crap going on that I focus less on to focus on wrestling.
I don't have the wrestling to focus on, so I have like a million projects that are half finished as we speak.
Yeah, me too. One thing I wanted to add, because yeah, when Lucha Chris was like, "Hey, we're gonna interview Trever Aeon," and I was like, "Awesome, who's that?" So I went onto YouTube,
Who the hell is that
and
guy?
yeah, and in whether it's my fault or my defense or whatever, I'm just now getting big into the indies. So I went through it, and I started watching a bunch of your matches, bunch of your pro, and the whole gothic gangster thing. I absolutely love it. It is so cool because it's such a different take on I've never seen anybody with anything like that before. So I guess it's not just a question, more of a little mark out praise of like, dude, that is really cool, that that gothic gangster thing, and the bad bat or big bat. I love that whole I love that whole look. It's so cool. It really, really good.
The funniest thing about a lot of that wasn't like something I necessarily designed. It was stuff that was given to me in my personal life that I just added to wrestling. Like the big bat thing, because newer goths are called baby bats. I've been around the scene for like longer than I've been wrestling. So like 11 to 12 years now. And I've always been kind of one of the, like if I'm at the show, especially like here in Atlanta, like if I'm at the show, if you need somebody to walk you to your car, I would do it. If people need a doorman and need security or whatever, a go-go dance or anything, usually if I'm at the event or I'm available, I'll do it. If people at concerts need help, bands need help loading in, loading out, whatever, I'll usually jump to help, especially when it comes to like moving heavy stuff. Because well, you're a pro wrestler, you can move stuff for me. Because of that, it kind of turned into like, like me kind of being like an older brother kind of thing. And then I was like, that nickname, I was looking for a nickname to go along with the original Gothic Gangster thing that kind of sounds like, how like crime bosses have nicknames like the big man or the whatever. Yeah. I wanted something like that. And I'm like, well, goth, bats, crime. What if you're a big bat? And I'm like, oh, you know what? Yeah. And here we are.
Dude, that's way better than in The Sopranos being called pussy. So
yeah.
Probably would. I would have to jump through some serious hoops to be able to pull that off.
Oh man. And that's the fun thing, to go based on his comment there, with the, like, I get a little bit of the Gangrel thing. I get a little bit like when you sit in the corner at the beginning of the matches, that to me, that's clearly a callback to Raven a little bit. I don't know if it actually is, but that's just the vibe I get. So I feel nice.
I sat on the turnbuckle instead of the ground because I don't want to copy him exactly.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I dig it though, because you have all these influences and you're able to kind of cut them all down a little bit to work for you and not completely be any type of ripoff or anything like that. You make all your influences work for you, which I think is the perfect evolution of a new wrestler, or, obviously not new, you're 10 years deep at this point. But but I can appreciate the fact that you can really pick those things apart, whether you do it consciously or not. You know what I mean? I think I've always been a fan of people who can do that, and you're very, very good at it. Let's see. So moving on a little bit, what's your ideal end game, at least as far as wrestling is concerned, or at least, and maybe if it's not the end game, within, what's a 5-year goal? Like, where do you want to be at least within the next 5 years?
So my real actual goal is to just be a traveling international professional wrestler. I don't necessarily care if I'm signed somewhere.
Right.
I don't really care if it's on this show or that show. I really just want to be able to wrestle in different countries regularly and wrestle like whatever huge shows are here, even if they're not on TV, even if it's not like WWE or AEW or Impact, ROH or whatever. Because I know, like, with my style and with like the presentation I have, it's going to be kind of a hard sell. And then like when you look at like say at AEW, well, they have Tommy End, and we're basically the same, except he's a death metal guy and I'm a goth dude, but it's the same thing. And I'm just like, well, they probably don't want two of y'all, even though like the only I mean, I guess the major difference is me being black will change kind of the perspective.
Sure.
But still, for the most part, satanic demon guy.
Fair enough.
Just because one of y'all is black and one of y'all is white doesn't mean that. And then we both like to strike. So I was just like, oh, okay.
It'd be a dope tag team.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that into the universe.
I personally say you take me, him, Ryzen, and Abaddon and put us all in one.
Oh my God. House of Black. House of Black.
I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, that would be. Like I said, I'm gonna manifest it. I'm saying it now.
I think I'm pretty sure I've tweeted it too, because I normally don't tweet stuff like that, but I was like, this is just way too obvious for me not to say something.
Well, and I think too, based on if this was an option, I think Impact would be a good fit too, because they do have that influx of the I don't know, darker characters would be the right term to use, with that Crazy Steve. I don't even know if he's there anymore, to be honest. But yeah, they've got that whole kind of. They've always had that. It seems like they've always had that niche of some of the darker, more I guess evil characters or whatever. But
because you think about it, you drop me an Impact now. The Decay's there.
Right.
Sue Young, good friend of mine, she's there. There's a lot of like little stuff I think you could do to make people be like, oh, and go crazy.
For sure.
And I'm absolutely not like opposed to signing a contract. So
I get what you're saying.
So no one watch this and say, hey, Trever doesn't want to be signed. I did not say that.
Yeah, we had this filled out, but he just wants to travel.
Yeah.
Well,
I said that I would be okay if I just traveled.
Well, and luckily we're in a time again that it's a little easier to have the ambition of just being a traveling wrestler. Yeah. Because you can still make a living being a traveling wrestler. It's there are more eyes on the indies, and it's easier to get more eyes on the indies. So that's totally fair. Look, man, this interview went real quick.
Didn't it?
It did. Even with our technical difficulties. What's that? Yeah, right.
Even faster for me.
Old ghost Pat. But yeah, man, I appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time. Hopefully, maybe one of these days down the road, we'll do this again. Is there anything specific you'd like to put out there in the world? Plug anything? We've got your Twitter handle right below. Anything else you want people to check out for you?
Well, that's like the main thing to plug. But I would like to definitely drop a little blurb about my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Because I have been telling overarching stories about my own evolution since like 2013,
right?
Or 2014, I want to say. And I put a lot of work into them. It's actually pretty cool because I went back and watched it myself and was like, I didn't realize that. Oh man, I really would, because the old ones I ain't seen them in a while. But if you go to youtube.com/Trever Aeon official,
okay,
you can follow this ridiculous overarching story. That the videos are all labeled and numbered, because I stole the system from the Nine Inch Nails Halo numbering system.
Oh my God.
So the videos are labeled like that. So you can watch them in order. Okay. And there's at this point, it's like it's a few years worth of video content. And I'm literally working on a video right now.
Okay.
So yeah. That's the main thing, because everything else can be found on my Twitter. Because I won't shut up on there, even though I'm always telling people to shut their ass up. I won't shut my ass up.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I asked you to be on the show, because we've interacted a couple of times on Twitter, and you're just constantly on there, so it's easy to approach. And I'll go ahead and put all of your links, stuff for the YouTube and everything in the descriptions. Again, anything you want to end on, Patrick?
Just watching your stuff and seeing that was it that snap belly to back suplex? Oh, that thing is pretty.
I appreciate that.
Nasty.
Probably my favorite thing.
I showed my wife that. I was like, check this out. And she's like, ooh. So yeah, that is nice.
That move required some really, really serious training to make sure.
I believe it. Yeah. You probably got abs of steel and granite and whatever else.
I had a training class where I literally just had everybody feed into that suplex over and over and over again so now it's like second nature. Like my hips pop up, my back arches, everything second nature all the time.
Nice.
Because all I do is
it's pretty.
Because all I do is train. So
good.
all I do all the time.
Well, again, I look forward to hopefully seeing you whenever the Journey Pro show is re-announced and rescheduled.
Yes.
And again, man, I appreciate the hell out of you being here, and happy fucking Halloween.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy Halloween.
Absolutely. All right, brother, I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, Trevor.